The moon and star doors found in Sky the Third have served as vital bridges between the liberal arc and the two arcs that succeed it. Since these added scenes are necessary to get the most out of the Crossbell and Cold Steel games, I will be covering the crucial lore in this video. I tried my best to split the information into sections that make the most sense in relation to one another. So with that, let's dive into the information contained in these doors. First off, let's visit the celebratory banquet that was thrown at Grancel Castle once the Liberal Arc incident was successfully dealt with. Chloe is shown embracing her status as the Crown Princess of Liberal when she addresses and thanks all who are in attendance on behalf of the royal family. Joshua takes a walk around the terrace, greeting and thanking all the new friends he made over the course of their long journey. Two parties have received royal pardons from the Queen for their invaluable contributions in dealing with the entire Ouroboros crisis. One is the Capua family. These siblings plan to stick to the skies in their bobcat and establish a courier and delivery company. Their new, more respectable exploits compared to their prior sky banditry is briefly shown in the minigame found in the first Sun Door. Richard and Amalthea make up the other party that has received a pardon for their help in liberating Grancel. The two go on to establish a private research company fittingly titled RNA Research. Due to their prior experience in intelligence, they're able to secure valuable information for a variety of clients, ranging from private business owners to Brigadier General Cassius Bright himself. Their agency's expansive network of knowledge across the entire continent will come in handy in the succeeding Trails games. Now moving on to another area of the lore, let's take a look at a confidential report written by the Septian Church. It details a catastrophic event that occurred in early July 1178 in the Principality of North Ambria. Early one morning, a massive white pillar appeared on the outskirts of the city of Holyosk. Bishop Alexei sent an urgent report to Arteria, which dispatched the 8th Dominion and a squire in response. On board the recently created Merkabahs at the time, what first appeared to be a massive hailstorm actually turned out to be whirling clouds of crystallized salt. The White Tower was the cause of a widespread salt storm that eventually engulfed a third of North Ambria. People and animals crystallized and shattered during this 3-day solidification process. Anyone who touched the pillar was instantly turned to salt. A towering black structure labeled the Salt Pail by the church was left in the place of the white pillar. The number of lives lost and the mental toll on those who witnessed the horrors reached catastrophic levels, so the Septian Church stepped in immediately to provide humanitarian aid and protection. The entire northern region, after being reduced to nothing but salt, has been under restricted access by the church since the incidents. Two very important consequences have resulted from this salt pillar crisis. 1. The formation of the Northern Jaegers. Once the initial crisis was averted, the Prince of North Ambria at the time tried to return after having initially fled. He was no longer welcome for abandoning his people in their time of need, so a large-scale revolution was ushered in. The former principality became the democratic autonomous state that exists today, and its armed forces reformed as a formidable Jaeger corps known as the Northern Jaegers. They are known to seek foreign wealth due to the rampant poverty within the state in the aftermath of the Salt Pillar crisis. The second major result is only known within the Septian Church. The church leadership has been researching the black structure that was left in the pillar's wake. Its nature is different from artifacts and is more akin to a literal manifestation of the goddess's power over creation. While many theories have cropped up, the most accepted proposal sees the salt pail as a gift from Eidos and should therefore be put to good use. A small sample of the salt pail was carved out and prepared as an execution tool for use by the 5th Dominion for the complete elimination of the apostate George Wiseman. Such is confirmed in the report about a carved salt arrow signed off by Kevin Graham. Moving on, the next section of vital lore involves the Empire of Erebonia. Let's first touch on the operation that Cassius was involved in during the attempted coup in Liberal back in Sky FC. The retelling of the event is told through reports of the Erebonian Intelligence Division. A group of Jaegers, known as Jester, launched a series of bombing raids on the Imperial capital's Bracer guilds, prompting these bracers to phone Liberal's Gransel guild branch to request urgent aid. Cassius Bright arrived in Erebonia 2 days after the first attacks began. The Intelligence Division communications are shown to have been expecting his arrival, and were ordered to keep him under strict surveillance once he arrived in the Empire. A stalemate between the Erebonian guild branches and Jester continued for 2 months, until the Imperial Intelligence Division received a message from Cassius, who suggested a joint operation. Through this partnered mission, Cassius successfully lured the Jaegers to his location, allowing the Imperial Army to quickly surround and apprehend these terrorists. Those who were taken as prisoners gave up information on the rest of Jester's whereabouts, leading to the complete dismantling of their remaining Jaeger forces. After the incidents, the threat level of Cassius Bright was raised to max L5 level within the Imperial Intelligence Division, resulting in strict orders to immediately arrest him should he ever re-enter the country. A final message is seen addressed to the Imperial Chancellor by the GSO Special Investigative Department, confirming Cassius Bright's departure from Erebonia. They have been and have continued to keep a close eye on any interactions between Cassius and the Minstrel, aka a certain Imperial Prince. Next, let's focus on some important Imperial figures who have big roles to play in the coming arcs. First off is a certain redhead, Lecter Arundel. Moondor 3 explores his time at Genis Royal Academy through the eyes of Chloe. Lecter both directly and indirectly plays a vital role to Chloe's development during her freshman year at the school. A little more of that will be explained later, but first let's take a quick look at Lecter's personality and traits. Despite his completely lackadaisical and irresponsible attitude, Lecter served as the Academy's Student Council president. His attitude and his position clashed considerably and ended up causing much trouble for his diligent vice president and the rest of the Student Council. One of Lecter's signature traits was avoiding direct student council responsibilities by hiding in various strange places across campus. He was even shown to spend time gambling at the casino in Rouen. This tendency made it especially difficult for his peers to find him, so Chloe was often sent to search for him. His favorite spot was seemingly the rooftop of the Student Union building, which was actually the first place where the player is introduced to him. Oddly enough, there are various instances in these moon and star doors that show Sieg comfortably approaching and even getting along with Lecter. Since Sieg has been shown to attack those who threaten harm to Chloe and her friends throughout various points of Sky FC and SC, his positive interactions with Lecter raises questions as to the latter's true intentions and loyalties. Furthermore, Lecter helped spur Chloe to come out of her shell during her first couple weeks at the academy. Twice the redhead approached her and heard her out, and in his own lackadaisical and strange way, was able to nudge her towards the answers she sought in herself. Indirectly through his hide-and-seek antics, Chloe was able to make friends, including Jill and Hans, with members of the student council. Because he played a pretty big role in her life at the academy, his sudden departure from the campus after the school festival was quite a surprise. Then, 2 years later, he makes a completely unexpected appearance at Gransel Castle with Erebonian Chancellor Gileath Osborne. It turns out that Lecter was working as a secretary in the Erebonian embassy in Liberal right since the time of the Liber Arc incidents. And with that, let's shift the lens to Chancellor Osborne. Right after Prince Olivert secured travel home on the Arcee with the permission of the royal family, the Blood and Iron Chancellor drops in for a complete surprise visit. He masterfully jumps hoops through the political niceties and small talk with the royalty, already showcasing how formidable he is as a political strategist. In a private room, the Chancellor and Prince Olivert have a tense conversation in which a number of key factors are gone over. The Prince calls forward the Chancellor's strong-armed tendencies to annex smaller surrounding states. What begins as a number of internal problems within these regions eventually invites the infiltration of Jaegers. The local governments then resort to a last-case scenario in which they must request help from the Imperial Army to restore order. Furthermore, the Prince has noticed a rising number of terrorists seeking to take the Chancellor's life. Osborne's response is that he has everything very much under control, and in fact, he's currently advancing his plans through talks with a high-ranking politician in Crossbell State. Finally, the Chancellor appeals to Prince Olivert, stating that their positions are very similar. They both wish to see reform of the current class system in Erebonia, since the rapid progression of orbal technology has been giving rise to many new money commoners. Though there's no doubt that Osborne is incredibly powerful, he really only holds influence in the capital of Heimdall. The outer-lying regions answer to the 4 great noble houses. Eventually, though, the Chancellor seeks to assert full dominance by forcibly pitting his reformist faction against the noble faction. What hasn't escaped the notice of Prince Olivert is the expansion of the railways across Erebonia, which is all just one of the many tactics that the Chancellor is employing to slowly expand his influence. Osborne asks Olivert one more time to join his cause, but the latter refuses to align with a man who would resort to such tactics, even though he too admits that he hates the noble faction in many ways. With nothing left to discuss, Osborne welcomes Olivert's challenge, then takes his leave. As for Lecter, he's happily greeted by Sieg first and is followed by Chloe. She expresses her gratitude to him during her first year at the academy, then asks why he's working for someone like Osborne. Since he doesn't know what kind of person he seeks to be, apparently his sole reason for backing the Chancellor is because it seems like a fun time. He leaves her on the terrace with a warning for Olivier to watch his back against the abject monster he's decided to challenge. Finally, at the landing port, Prince Olivert refuses to let himself be outdone after Chloe explains that Lecter and likely other reformists have been gathering intelligence on Liberal for a good couple of years already. In the air, Lecter tells Osborne that he may not stay loyal forever, which comes as no surprise to the latter. After their conversation, the Arcee pulls right beside Osborne's airship, where, in a flourish of rose petals, the prince announces his official challenge to the Blood and Iron Chancellor. Just how the future of Erebonia will play out will be left to the following Trails series arcs. And now Fed will explain what's going on in other parts of the Zemurian continent. He'll start off with the eastern counterpart to Erebonia in terms of size and power.
In the Calvin Republic, an entirely new intelligence division is currently in development under the orders of President Rocksmith. The encroaching threat of an expanding Erebonian empire and domestic terrorism, not to mention the news of Ouroboros on the move, has spurred the president to take action. This Rocksmith agency will answer directly to the man in question rather than risk the influence of those in the parliament. The Calvardian Empire in Liberal extends the position of Division Chief to Kilika on behalf of the President himself, who has been more than impressed with the analytical and information-gathering skills she has showcased during her time as a guild receptionist. After a night of self-reflection and contemplation, Kilika decides to accept the President's offer and begins working towards finding a replacement at the Zeiss Bracer Guild. Now, back to the continent as a whole, Stardor 7 details the roots of the Orbital Revolution, the Epstein Foundation, and its subsequent influence throughout Zemuria. It was founded in Lamont State in 1155 after the death of Professor Epstein, with the initial goal of spreading the use of orbital technology. However, the idea of orbments were met with skepticism and caution back in those days, so 3 key researchers left the Foundation to better reach other nations. One of these researchers, Professor Russell, returned to his home nation of Liberal and soon became known as the father of the Orbital Revolution. Within a year, he established what is known as the Zeiss Central Factory and secured funding from Liberal's monarch for the spread of orbital technology. The prosperity that engulfed Liberal became the envy of the other nations, so they soon established orbital engineering and research facilities of their own. Since its establishment, the Foundation has held three main goals. 1. To carry out fundamental research on orbits. 2. To spread orbital technology and inform the public of its benefits. And 3. To contribute to world peace through this technology. The Epstein Foundation works closely with the Septian Church, the basic knowledge of orbital technology having been added to the Sunday school curriculum. Furthermore, the Foundation engages in humanitarian work, including travels to rural and mountainous areas that have less access to typical orbits. Finally, this organization has worked closely with the Bracer Guild since its inception. Just as the Guild is committed to international peace and the mediation of conflict from a neutral standpoint, the Epstein Foundation too seeks to promote global peace. As a result, the Foundation provides ample monetary support to the Bracer Guild and arms them with combat orbits. Lamont State as a whole remains the sole manufacturing location of tactical orbits to this day. With this background information established, we can now briefly discuss the Orbital Network project that was unveiled in 1190. In partnership with Zeiss Central Factory, the main goal of this project seeks to unite the entirety of Zemuria under a single communications network. Though the intent is to facilitate more peaceful contact and negotiations between countries, there is no mistake that the proliferation of orbital technology raises grave questions about its actual effects. For example, the nature of warfare has been forever changed with the advancement of orbital weaponry, such as was seen in the 100 Days War between Liberal and Erebonia. As of now, the possibility of fully realizing the ideals of Professor Epstein is yet to be seen. What is known, however, is that the Zeiss Central Factory, under the guidance of Tita's family, has been working on an orbital gear project of its own. Since witnessing the advanced technology of the society during the Liberal disaster in 1202, the Russells have been researching and developing an answer to the powerful archaisms utilized by Ouroboros. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand the reins over back to Lady.
Hey, thanks so much for covering those topics, Feb. Links to his channel are in the description, so go check out his Trails series streams, especially CS3 and CS4 subtitled. Now, returning to some of the characters we've gotten to know and love, the end of Moondoor 4 shows the entirety of Roland, seeing Estelle and Joshua off as they begin their travels across the continent. A big reason why they are traveling is related to what I'll cover next. So, this next part involving a certain character is quite disturbing, so you have been warned. We are introduced to a bunch of children from a young Ren's perspective. They all have quite distinct personalities from each other, yet they get along well, especially as they all watch over the young girl. The work they perform each and every day leaves them with various bleeding injuries, but knowing that Ren was in this room waiting for them made everything bearable. One boy, especially, known as Cross, shielded her from the harsh realities of the outside world, though the other children began to give her advice on how to perform their work, such as always responding with, "It would be my pleasure," to customers if the time ever came. Then one day, Ren asked Cross where the others have gone, since aren't they all currently working? This moment in particular highlights the odd nature of Ren's friends and draws the room, which she has never left, into question, since Cross reveals that it's always just been her and him there. None of the others actually exist. He then angrily shouts at Ren, blaming her for his growing fatigue and sickliness. Ren is still obviously confused. Apparently Cross took on all the work that the others left behind once they all vanished. But he then accuses Ren of wasting no time killing the other children, and yet she has allowed only him to live on. Eventually the time comes for Ren's first job, since no one else is left to take it in her place, not even Cross. If the young girl's story hasn't already lifted a number of red flags and left you feeling unsettled, it will now. The owner leads Ren into this new room and tells her to introduce herself to her customer. They're wondering what kind of personality they can expect from her today, since she's so talented at acting. This is when Ren finally breaks, first whispering that that wasn't her. She grows agitated and continually repeats it, getting louder and louder until she's frantically shouting. She is coerced to drink medicine that was already forced upon her many times in the past. This strange liquid causes her vision and personality to slowly distort. The customer finally takes advantage of the now docile Ren, who only exists to please him. The young girl's entire breakdown becomes apparent as she can do nothing but inwardly hang on to her memories with the other children. This horrid place called Paradise is finally liberated by a group of Ouroboros members. Luva and Joshua come across a small girl covered by an innumerable amount of self-inflicted cross-shaped scars, the true nature of the boy Cross finally coming to light. The scene cuts to Ren viewing a familiar couple holding a newborn child from afar. She wishes this child nothing but happiness, untainted and free from worry, and that he'll eventually grow to be a respectable adult, unlike what she is and ever will be. From the couple's conversation, she infers that she's always been seen as an unwanted and impure child anyway. Luva leads the new Enforcer 15 away as she reflects on an inner monologue. In the life she has now, happiness nor sadness exist. Her world continues to spin on and on indifferently, in a place that exists beyond good and evil, her defiled self failing to go anywhere, and belonging nowhere. Finally, the flashbacks cut back to reality, where Ren wakes up outside during a rainy, chilly night besides Potter Mater. Her real father and mother releases heat to warm Ren as she ponders Estelle's parting words to her. Enforcer 15 and her archaism are last seen flying off towards Crossbell. And now let's transition to the final topics that involve the society, its members, and its future plans. The first contains a report by the 13 factories on the testing of the Gordias class series of archaisms. This new model draws on the wielder's nervous system, which speeds up its reflexive and strategic capabilities in battle. A Professor Novartis oversaw experiential tests that utilized children to determine the capability of the Orbital Doll's control system. Countless numbers of child test subjects fell into comas or even perished during these experiments, until finally a child of the society was found to be fully compatible with the archaism. Next up is an investigative report on the Phantom Thief B written by the Imperial Chronicle. He has had a lengthy career across the Empire, stealing numerous paintings, septium crystals, and even an Imperial tank. The baffling part is that he has sought no monetary profit from any of his exploits. His intent seems largely to satisfy his own whims, though others believe that his exploits are to find works of beauty that have been forgotten by the world, and to liberate them from their foolish owners. 3 plausible theories have come forward regarding his identity, which can be summarized as follows. 1. He is a con artist who has had trysts with noble women, but because he was born into a poor family, he has no social standing to pursue a woman who he has fallen in love with. 2. He is an artist with a tragic past. He was hired by an influential noble who did not appreciate art for what it was, and instead produced counterfeit products of the artist's beautiful works just for a larger amount of sales. Not only this, but his lover was killed in a traffic accident, though it has neither been proven nor disproven that he may have had a hand in her death. Finally, the third theory suggests that he was born in the East with a natural affinity for the martial arts. He was skilled at a great deal of other things, and his genius and arrogance became well known. Apparently, he became so bored one day that he disappeared without telling a soul where he would be going or what he would be doing. After this article was published, Phantom Thief B left a calling card at the Chronicle's office, confirming that the truth is within their grasp, and that his number reveals all. And at last, we've arrived at the final door that will be covered, which outlines the future plans of Ouroboros set for the Crossbell and Erebonia arcs. Right after Wiseman's death in SC, Campanella teleports to the Celestial Globe to speak with the other Anguis, and even the Grand Master herself. The other Anguis mockingly speak of Wiseman's demise, but lament Luva's untimely death and the loss of his talent. He was even expected to surpass the 7th Anguis in combat skill eventually. The 6th Anguis will continue to observe the Runaway Wren and the Gordius-class Archaism from afar, since the Grand Master's law is that enforcers serve only of their own free will and cannot be coerced into carrying out duties. Since the Evo voice acting makes for some great theory fuel, I'll play just a couple of the voice clips for you guys.
ゾクゾクしてしまうわね。私もその場にいられればよかったわ。
潮の杭、ノーザンブリアに出現した得意点の産物だね。この目で実物を確かめたかったところだが。
しかし意外だな。あの抜け目ない御仁がそんな隙を見せちまうとはね。
おそらく相手は守護騎士の一人であろう。それも今まで不在とされた第5位に違いあるまい。
そうですね。良き剣士であったのに本当に惜しいことをしました。
確かに
まあそれは彼女次第でしょう。我々は彼らの上位にあるが、彼らの行動までは制限できない。それ
ご苦労。カンパネルラも我が代理としての見届け役大義でありました。
Campanella presents the aureole to the Grand Master once she appears. Surprisingly, Ouroboros' leader appears compassionate and remorseful for all the sacrifices that were made to achieve this victory. Finally, she proclaims the completion of the first step in the Orpheus final plan and the initiation of the next step, the Phantasmal Blaze plan. Campanella reveals to us that the scope and quality of this next step will completely dwarf the scale of the Gospel project. And finally, Campanella turns to the player, asking if we could stop spying on the Society's business. And with this lore in place, it's time to dive into the autonomous state of Crossbell and the massive empire of Erebonia. Big thanks to February Knight for helping me out. Please go check out his Trails channel, especially if you're curious for the entire Cold Steel 3 and 4 games with subtitles, and also subtitled bonding events for all of those games. He also plans to do weekly streams in the future, which I will join in on, where we just talk about all things Trails series, so join us on Fridays for that. So next up on the Trails series recap videos will be part 1 of Zero no Kiseki, aka Trails to Zero summary, so consider subscribing so you don't miss out. And until next time, take care, see ya!